Payback time.
The IG-100 Magnaguard is by far my favorite droid in all of Star Wars. It's just, look at it, it's super cool. It was General Grievous concept art that they thought was so cool they decided to turn it into his bodyguards. They still wanted to use it. And personally, I love the design. It's, like I said, my favorite droid. I love it more than battle droids, protocols, any of them. Magnaguard is by far my favorite. I love it to death. So it took an embarrassingly long amount of time for me to get every Magnaguard action figure ever, but here we are, just in time for the Jedi Survivor Magnaguard, which I'm very excited to see how that plays out in the video game. Yeah, here we are. We have 4 figures that come from the Revenge of the Sith era. One of them is kind of more of a Battlefront one, 2 Clone Wars ones, and 2 Vintage Collection ones. Really cool figures here. There's a couple that I'm a little dicey on, but one of them I think has a saving grace, and the other is it's kind of poopy. Overall, though, I really like them. It's an awesome collection. I love Magnaguards. They're just so cool, dude. They're so cool. So let's start this video off with, of course, the classic Revenge of the Sith, what I call the gray and blue Magnaguard. So this one was my childhood Magnaguard action figure. This is one of the only ones I had growing up, and I thought it was super cool. It has this gimmick where, like, you squeeze his legs and his arm moves to, like, twirl the staff, but naturally, you know, it kind of works, but not too well. I think it works best if you have it, like, above his head and have the staff in the middle. You know, it kind of works, but, you know, it's not really going to work too well. It's just not. It is kind of bent and warped because I've had this one ever since I was a kid. I should probably just heat it up, you know, it would look a lot better. You can pop off the cloak if you want to get a better look at him. And yeah, he's cool looking. I love the blue highlights. I love the gray. I love the gray for the tunic. I've always just loved the look of this figure. Unfortunately, it's not the most articulated, even though you do have good motion in the arms with a ball joint, or a ball hinge and a ball hinge. Actually, it's just a hinge at the elbow, not a ball hinge. You get a very loose swivel at the wrist for the gimmick. You have nothing at the waist. You have a ball joint at the head, swivels at the hips, and that's it. So it's a pretty basic figure. I'm going to knock this Vintage Collection one over so bad. Let me just kind of scoot him. There we go. So yeah, it's a pretty basic figure, but overall it gets the job done. As cool as these droids are, ultimately in the movie, most of what they did were just stand around and look cool. I mean, they had that fight on the Invisible Hand, but after that, Obi-Wan took care of him pretty quick on Utapau. They didn't really stand much of a chance. But still, I love this one. Is it my favorite? Absolutely not. It's cool. I really do enjoy it, but there's a few others that I enjoy just a little bit more. One thing I do want to show, though, next up, and this will unfortunately involve me kind of scooting him over because that one, the blue one, does not want to stand on his own. There's a variant. So this one here, the white one, is actually a variant that was released in Revenge of the Sith. It was like a running change, or just, you know, like, oh, it's a different version. I call this one the white Magnaguard because he's kind of more on the white side. It's the one that I feel like the later Clone Wars version kind of replicates, and I feel like it's the one that the Vintage Collection one kind of replicates. Yeah, he's just more white. Let's take his cloak off so you can get a bit of a look. Oh, there goes his head. I got his head, don't worry. You can take off his cloak and see his armor. His body is more of a lighter gray, but still looks cool. You can have his arms attached, and it also works with the gimmick too. And one thing with him being attached, you can kind of see, it's almost like, whoa, his arm's kind of moving, isn't that cool? I feel like that's kind of more of what the gimmick was intended for, was having him hold it with 2 hands. Because you can see, oh, it's kind of like he's deflecting it. It's kind of cool. I enjoyed it as a kid. But I did also kind of wish that, you know, he was a little bit more posable instead. I feel like this Magnaguard especially you really want to have with the robe on, because he actually has the head portion of the robe painted on his head. So I think overall, when it comes to the original Revenge of the Sith Magnaguards, I love them both, but I actually do prefer the white one. I always wanted the white one growing up, and I never had it. Are they out of focus? Of course they are. These little tiny figures, they never want to stay in focus. I swear, they never do. Yeah. Cool ones. Really like them. Let's take a break from those and talk about this one. I did a whole video on this guy. This is a Magnaguard that I didn't even know existed until just earlier last year. That's it. This came in a like Utapau dual set with, Obi-Wan and a Magnaguard here. And this replicates the blue Magnaguard that we saw in Revenge of the Sith. Now, granted, that one had like a broken eye. But this one has this really cool metallic blue deco, and he has like some scratches on his torso. And there goes the Vintage Collection one. I knew that was going to happen. Yeah, it's a nice sculpt. But unfortunately, it is a new mold, different from the original Revenge of the Sith one. His articulation is even less. He still does have a ball joint at the head, and he still has swivels at the shoulders, but that's it. Nothing at the legs, nothing at the wrists. He is stuck in this one pose, essentially, and that is it. You can kind of raise it up. His wrists, too, the hands are so big that he has to actually hold the staff by the end, at least on one hand for him to hold it. Yeah, not the greatest when it comes to the actual functionality, but look at it. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. One thing I do, though, and I will actually keep him like this for the rest of the video because this is how I display him. I showed this off in my video featuring him to kind of match, because every Magnaguard in the movie had the cloak. I did have a spare gray Magnaguard, so I actually gave the cloak over to this guy. So now I feel like he's a little bit more movie accurate. And he just kind of looks cooler with the cloak, in my opinion. I don't know, it's just me, I guess. Okay, let's try to get him standing up somehow. Does that work? Yeah, that works. Okay. Next up, this one. This is the last Magnaguard I needed to complete my collection. Special, massive, super mega awesome shout out to Rustabel Collector for helping me get this. He went to a toy show, and they had this Magnaguard there. It was like $8. And he was like, hey, I know JCC2224 really wanted that, so he picked it up for me. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And he sent it over to me, and now I finally have it. This came in a Battlefront 2 multi-pack. I never got the full multi-pack, but now I'm at the point where I only have 2 figures that I don't have. That, I've gotten all the rest just here and there. I think I only need like the Droideka and like the Engineer. I think those are the only 2 I need. So if you have them, shoot me a message. I might buy them. Yeah. Essentially, it's the same as the Revenge of the Sith one, but now the arm gimmick can kind of function for moving the blaster up and shooting those bulldog blasts that he had in the game that were very annoying. They were not really that effective. As cool as the Magnaguard is, I feel like they really nerfed him in that original 2005 Battlefront. I don't know, I got kind of good at him, but let's just say, playing as a clone trooper, it was very rare that I got killed by a Magnaguard. I would say the most often ones that got me, obviously the Droidekas, and obviously the Super Battle Droids. Other than that, the Separatists didn't have too much going for them, because this Magnaguard was kind of weak. Man, the Rebels were so overpowered in that original Battlefront. They had the Bothan and the Wookiee. Those were their special units. Alright, with that, we're taking a break from realistic Magnaguards, and we're talking about animated ones. This is the original 2008 Clone Wars animated Magnaguard. I have had this ever since 2008, and I was about 9 years old when I got it. That's why he's missing some fingers, because they broke off very easily. His hands are very rigid plastic, and trying to get him to hold this staff is not easy with these rigid plastic hands. For some reason, his fingers were just so separately sculpted that it just broke off super easy. So now it looks like he's kind of flipping you the bird in some odd way. Yeah, I'm hoping someday I can find one of these that's, kind of beat up, maybe missing the head or a limb. But as long as they have one good hand, I'm good. This figure, I've never liked it too much. Even as a kid, I wasn't very impressed. So the upper torso articulation is actually pretty decent. So he's got a ball joint at the head. Let's zoom in a little bit, get a bit of a closer look, because I actually do like the sculpted detail and texture. I really love the paint on this one, too. I think the paint's really nice. But he's got a ball joint at the head. He's got ball hinges at the shoulders. Ball hinges at the elbows now, so he can actually move side to side. He's got swivels at the wrists that aren't super loose, which are nice. This one added the gimmick of being able to remove these armor plates for whatever reason. So now you can remove armor plates off your, Magnaguards. That's great. You have a swivel at the waist, and I really loved this kind of piston-y look in the middle. I always thought that looked cool. And swivels at the hips. That's it. They really dropped the ball on the lower half, didn't they? Yeah, look, he's got sculpted hinges. They could have articulated him, but nope. he's nothing at the waist down. So yeah, unfortunately, this one is kind of a letdown, even though this one has a really nice staff. It's definitely one of the nicest staffs. Not the nicest, definitely one of the nicest. I really enjoy it. So yeah, I just kind of hide that broken finger, and I just stand up behind Grievous. Yeah, there's a Magnaguard. Cool figure, but oftentimes with these Clone Wars figures, they upgraded them later down the road. And this is an upgrade that I was looking to get for quite some time. And finally, I think it was 2021, I was able to purchase it. And that is the Clone Wars white hooded Magnaguard. This one is a lot better. So, number one, he's got the cloak. Yeah, that's an improvement. I personally prefer Magnaguards with the cloak. Me personally, I just think they look so much cooler with it. It's the General Grievous concept art. That's what we're used to. And I think the cloak on this one's really nice. It looks nice. I like the printing on it. This is the first fabric cloak Magnaguard we ever got, so it gave you so much more articulation. Speaking of, from the waist up, he's pretty similar. He's got a ball joint at the head, which is a new head with the hood sculpted on, which, again, I think looks really nice. Moving his hand out and not breaking his fingers, that would break my heart. Same kind of articulation from the waist up. However, he still has swivels at the hips, but now they're ball joints. Check that out. And what's this? Ooh, knee joints. Nice. Oh, what's this? Knee swivels. Nice. And oh, what's this? Ankle joints. Nice. And oh, what's this? Ankle rockers. Nice. Yeah. This one's really, really good. Yeah, I see why it's so desirable. If you want a Clone Wars Magnaguard in your collection, it's rare for me to say this, don't even worry about the original release, honestly. Put that money towards getting this one. Because this one's just so much cooler, man. I mean, look at it. Look at it. It's so much cooler. I mean, it's so much more posable, so much more, cool looking. Look at that. Look at that. I love the big feet on the animated version of the Magnaguard, by the way. I always thought that looked really cool. So yeah, if he'll get back in focus, love this guy. He is by far one of my favorites. But not my absolute favorite, though. I feel like he kind of paved the way for the one that is the king. And obviously, it's the ones in front. It's the Vintage Collection ones. So this is the Vintage Collection Magnaguard that came out around 2010. And I love it. My only issue with this figure is that the color of the sculpted hood on the head does not match the color of the robe. That's my only issue. That's it. That's the only one. Other than that, love, love, love this guy. It's so good. Like the Clone Wars Magnaguards, it does retain the gimmick of having removable armor, which is both cool and unfortunate because I have a duplicate of this guy, and I love having one because it's one of my favorite Star Wars figures, period. But it doesn't have that. It doesn't have the front. So that's tragic. I'm sure there's many of these that exist that don't have the front chest piece. Because, I mean, that's the eye. That's the extra eye. That's important to have. This one, man. I mean, you can see. It's just so nice. It does have, like I said, the separate hood. So you can have it without the hood and the cloak if you want. However, again, the cloak just looks so much better. I do think this is probably the best version of the staff, because you do have a nicer way of removing that, and it has a very nice sculpted look. I feel like the Clone Wars one, I didn't really touch on his staff much. He has little effects at the end, but he really looks like he's just wielding a Q-tip with the white tips. It's still a nice looking staff, though, but I think that the Vintage Collection versions are by far the superior staffs. So his articulation, again, amazing. Ball joint, ball hinge, swivel. Swivel at the waist. Bit of a ball joint, actually. It's more of a ball joint, but it's mostly just a swivel. Ball joints at the hips again. Pretty much the same articulation as the Clone Wars one, except for whatever unfortunate reason, they did get rid of the knee swivel. Maybe it's just because of the sculpt or something. They also got rid of the ankle pivot. But honestly, I don't think they're super important, because you can see he's still pretty much pulling the same similar kind of shapes as the Clone Wars one. There goes that chest piece. It's a very tiny little peg, too. That's one thing. The back piece also does come off, so I'll show that real quick. Yeah, I don't really know why they felt it super necessary to make these detachable pieces, but you can take them off. Hooray! Isn't that nice? You can take them off. So yeah, I think this Vintage Collection one's by far my favorite. I'm really happy it got a re-release in some way, but I would like to see this one get a re-release. I'm very excited to see what Black Series does for the Magnaguard. I don't collect Black Series, but I love Magnaguards enough to break that rule. I will definitely buy the Black Series Magnaguard. That is an absolute certainty, 100%. That's a buy. So I'm not going to talk about this one too awful much, because I just covered the mold with the original Vintage Collection one, and I did a whole review of this guy in the Jedi Survivor 3-pack set. So if you want to see him in way more detail, like with the cloak removed, check that out. However, I just wanted to speak on this paint deco. I think it's really cool. I think this deco's really sweet. It's something about it. I don't know if these are supposed to be like Separatist remnants, or if it's someone that like got Separatist droids and reprogrammed them, but I love the deco. I love the look. I'm happy that we got a new Magnaguard. I'm sure Black Series will get this version of the Magnaguard at some point too, since they're getting a Magnaguard in the first place here soon. Man, I love it. I love the yellow eyes too. Like, Magnaguards typically always have red eyes, but something about seeing them in yellows, it's kind of cool. It's almost like, you know, they're reprogrammed, they're not Separatists now, but I doubt they're still good. I'm sure they're still functioning some evil organization. Maybe Separatist Remnant? I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe a crime lord? We'll see. How did he get his hands on Magnaguards that were mostly just made for General Grievous? No idea. But hey, they're cool. They're cool, and I like them. And with that being said, there we go. I do want to actually modify this display a little bit, just because it's one of my favorites. I'm actually going to move this Clone Wars one in the middle. So there we go. There are all of the Magnaguard action figures made in the Hasbro 3 3/4 inch scale. Love them to death. They're great. They're awesome. My least favorite figure in this bunch is obviously that one. That's just because the legs, I don't know, I feel like, you know, it had 3 years apart from, you know, the Revenge of the Sith ones. I expected an upgrade, and when I got that as a kid, I was so disappointed. Because, like, you saw his knees, and you're like, oh, it looks like a joint. But nope, it's not a joint. It's just a sculpted joint, because it's a robot with a joint. Oh, so annoying. So, there we go. Let me know which Magnaguard's your favorite down in the comments below. Me personally, obviously, the 3 in front. But my ultimate favorite Magnaguard would be the Vintage Collection one in that deco, in the blue deco. That would be my ultimate Magnaguard. Paint his optic so it's like cracked. Yes, that's my favorite right there. That would be my number one. But yeah, let me know what your number one is down below. Let me know, are you excited for the Black Series one? I personally am. If Hot Toys makes a Magnaguard, that's a buy. Ooh, hope they do. Alrighty guys, there we go. Thank you so much for watching. Special shout out to channel members as well. Thank you all so much for the continued support. It always really helps, and I really appreciate it. If you want to join, button is down below. Get early videos, shout outs, Discord. It's great. It's cool. Alrighty guys, there we go. Have a great one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.